Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to this live demonstration of scenes from Nebula 75, which the Century 21 team will be filming on stage. Now this is, well, it's going out live, so we are kind of, there's a lot that the team are going to be doing and dealing with. There may be times when we have to switch between things, so don't worry about that. But basically, the setup is that the team are actually going to kind of talk about how and what they did when they filmed a specific scene, and they've kind of set this up with materials that they used when they originally kind of filmed this in their flat during lockdown. Hopefully, it's going to be a really valuable sort of learning experience and a really kind of great way of seeing how kind of art and creativity can thrive in circumstances that kind of are less than ideal, where there isn't kind of much available in terms of material. So it's really exciting. Thank you so much for joining us for this. I'm going to hand over to the team now and let them get on with things and get out of the way. But yeah, thanks very much, guys, and hope it goes well. See you.
If you start bringing the puppets in, we'll go for a wide establishing. So it would be Asteroid and Neptune. I don't know if I'm saying the like. Hello, everybody. As Laura said, we're going to be aiming as much as we can. I mean, this is a luxurious amount of space that we're in at the moment. I mean, we said before in the previous Q&A, we live in a very small flat in London. So, I mean, that puppet rail at the moment represents our bedroom, and often we have things in the bathroom, etc. But we're going to try and recreate the shambolic nature of working at home, as Geraldine's just so ably demonstrated. There is normally you would have a fairly sizable team. I mean, even around the set, even on on the main set, you'd probably maybe have 20 people on set at the time, someone to look after the hair and the costumes, and I mean, in a way, there's no point really explaining it, because you'll see in a moment. I mean, things will go wrong. Or maybe it will go smoothly. Maybe it will make it look terribly easy, and you'll think, what are we complaining about? So what we're going to do is we're going to show you a scene from the last episode we made, The Incredible Voyage of Nebula 75. And then we're going to effectively refilm that. It perhaps won't be as polished as we would normally aim for, because at home, a scene like this, would take several hours, and we don't have that time. But I hope that it will give an idea of the sort of techniques used, not just for Supermarionation, but the sort of way that things that you can use at home, etc. I mean, I'll start off just with the set. Our sets, they're just ordinary bookcases, which you can buy from a well-known high street shop. And they are dressed at the moment in, got rolls of vinyl, greys and reds and things like that. And then they are covered in bits of cooker dials and coffee pods, and just anything we could do to sort of give the sense of these being... There's a little bit of what they did in the 60s, which is to use everyday objects. As Elliot mentioned earlier, there is a lemon squeezer in Thunderbird 1 silo, so we're borrowing from the best. So at the moment, what Drew is doing is just testing the lip sync.
As such?
Yep. So the puppets work. Elliot, one of the things we're going to do is our flat, generally 3 of us are together. In the original pandemic, when it started, the original lockdown rather, not the original pandemic, it was Elliot, Géraldine and myself living together. And then when the rules changed, Drew came to join us, and very helpfully, Geraldine's work recalled her, so we still ended up with 3 people. So today we'll be recreating the magic of working with just 3 people to do a job of 20. Okay, shall we...
All right, so I can roll the clip?
Yep, please. So this is the clip we will recreate today, hopefully.
Now, don't get me wrong, Doc. It's not that I don't trust you. I mean, you've only gotten us into trouble 1, maybe 2, 3? Well, occasionally. And it's deep space, unexplored territory. So these things happen, right? Anyway, what I mean is I trust you implicitly. Once I've looked over and double-checked all the facts myself. What I mean, Doc, this investigation does pose an element of risk, and to come straight to the point, that is not to go around the houses or, well, beat around the bush or obfuscate, is, well...
Sorry to interrupt, sir.
Oh, no, please, go ahead, Lieutenant.
I just wanted to let you know that the star will be going supernova in 3 hours, 10 minutes. Before programming the final coordinates, I just wanted to check one thing with the doctor.
And what's that?
Is it really safe, Doc?
Safe? But of course. I have taken great care of the calculations, and Circuit has confirmed them. So long as everyone follows my instructions to the letter, well, we should be in for a spectacular, once-in-a-lifetime experience. Does that put your mind at rest, Lieutenant?
It certainly does, Doc. Sorry for asking.
Not at all. I'm glad you feel able to ask the important questions, no matter how awkward. Very important, right, Commander?
Yes. Absolutely.
Oh, by the way, what did you want to ask me, Commander?
Oh, well, nothing really. I have complete confidence in you, Doc. As you know already. Right. Anyway, I'd better get to work.
Oh, Doctor, there you are. Just to let you know that everything is now ready. Shall we commence?
Yes, indeed. Operation Supernova is go.
So there we have it. In fingers crossed, we can get most of that reshot in, what, 90 minutes?
Well,
Less?
45 minutes, because I think we're going to have to swap out over that. So, this is the scene that's so first of all, every shot, there's a reason for it. One of the things is the puppets are quite limited in what they can do. They famously don't walk brilliantly. They look very good on camera. So one of the things is you need to sort of move the shots around to give them a sort of an elegance, which if you film it right, they do look very good. Now, so poor Elliot here is going to have to do the job of 2 puppeteers. And the first thing that we would do, as with many films, it's shot in many ways, conventional ways, to get the master shot so that we know roughly where the puppets are standing, particularly as the puppets tend to drift around a bit. You'll notice even in the originals, they tend to the original shows from the 60s, they tend to move around a bit. So the lip sync is plugged in. This recreates, other than the fact that screen is quite large, this recreates the authentic living room experience, and the light is shining in my eye, so I can't actually quite see whether we're properly in focus. Our dolly, our camera dolly at home, is just a set of books. The puppets are very small, and so the books give us the ability, because you want to be able to move the camera. Getting camera movement in is a big part of sort of making up for the limitations of the way the puppets move. I mean, what they do very well. Stand still. No, actually, they don't do that. They wobble around a lot. So, Elliot, if you turn around. Now, you may notice that our lighting setup is not terribly sophisticated. It's a couple of hard lights. Originally, in the 60s, when they moved to colour, the contrast ratio, sort of the dark to the light areas, had to be very, very small. So effectively, once colour came in the 1960s for film series, I mean, it's all very flatly lit. So that's one thing we're recreating. The other thing is that these lamps, which we were very kindly lent, they don't have dimmers on. And also, there's always a bookcase in the way, which is why most people don't make shows in their living rooms. So you're sort of just trying to have to find a way where you've got 2 things. You don't want it to be too overexposed, and you don't want... problem with vinyl is it tends to give you a few reflections. The other thing that's important for puppets is the stop. So Elliot, if you could bring the puppets into the set so we can get a bit of depth. Is that when you do miniature photography, basically the more you stop up, the more light you let in, the more they look like the genuine size they are. There's no sort of, we come across to, or if I just pick it up, they can look quite small, whereas once you start to bring this, not really throwing the, but I'm not far enough away, but the more you close down, the more focus you get, the better they start to look. And that's also changes a bit on the lenses. And we can see a little bit here. I really can't see. Oh, there we go. OK, so first of all, we'll do this as our shot. So Elliot. Elliot is going to puppeteer both of them. And this is our master shot. So Commander Neptune is talking to Dr. Asteroid. And this gives us a sense of where we are. I'm just going to, Drew.
Yeah.
Could you step over there and just tell me
if you're in focus?
If we're in focus, small things like that, you know.
Okay,
I think that looks about.
Yeah, out there. Come back, come back. That looks about right, as well as I can tell on a projector.
Yeah, we are working on a projector screen. So there we go. Okay. So actually, I'm just going to bring the camera around a bit. So Elliot, if you can stand Neptune in front of the silver line. So as you can already hear, Elliot is it's in a lot of pain. So Elliot, if you come around to the middle of it, you might find that easier to.
Okay. Someone.
What do you need?
Oh, just need to hold Asteroid from the front.
So Elliot's arms are already going from the shear. So this is, you think how many shots there are in a half-an-hour episode, and this is how every shot, it's as painful as this.
You got him?
Yeah. Okay, so Elliot's now holding the controller in reverse. And then the last thing I'll do is, just to give the puppets a little bit of life, we'll just pop a lamp in there, and we just pop a little light into their eyes. So the eyes, which I think I mentioned earlier, are effectively made like real human eyes. Not real human eyes, that would be ridiculous. Like real false human eyes. These aren't the genuine souls of people staring out at you. And that just helps give it a little extra. So, right, now Elliot is sufficiently in pain. We'll give this a go. OK. We tend not to put clapperboards on this stuff because we're all there, and the pain sort of burns it into you, what you're filming at the time. So when you see it again, you get the same cold sweats, and you know on what day into the production it was shot. OK. OK, are we ready? Asteroid is casting a bit of a shadow onto Neptune, so
Back or that?
I would bring him, stretch out a bit further if you can. No. Hang on. I would bring Asteroid. Yeah. So not too much space in the centre of the screen. There we go. All right. And just bring Neptune, maybe bring them a tiny bit closer together.
Okay.
So again, we would spend lots of time on trying to get like the light into Neptune's eyes so he doesn't look too. Where are you, Drew?
Yeah.
Stand over there and just
you
again,
want
let me know
focus
about
again.
focus
Okay.
again. Can you bring him to the silver line? This sort of demandingness is genuinely reflective of what we go through at home. Okay, we're going to run with that just for the sake of it. I'm just going to adjust the focus again.
A little bit more. No, back again. There.
Right. Okay. So. Yeah. So as the puppets get, they don't get heavier. As the puppeteer wears out, the puppets start to sink. Right. Let's run for it.
Ready?
Just bring Asteroid slightly closer to him. There we go. Okay. We're running. And action.
Now, don't get me wrong, Doc. It's not that I don't trust you. I mean, you've only gotten us into trouble one, maybe two, three. Well, occasionally. And it's deep space, unexplored territory. So these things happen, right? Anyway, what I mean is I trust you implicitly. Once I've looked over and double-checked all the facts myself. What I mean, Doc, this investigation does pose an element of risk, and to come straight to the point, that is not to go around the houses or, well, beat around the bush or obfuscate, is, well...
Sorry to interrupt, sir.
Oh, no, please, go ahead, Lieutenant.
I just wanted to let you
Okay, and we'll just cut that there.
Yep.
supernova in 3 hours.
So I did realise once I actually turned over on that I made Elliot suffer completely unnecessarily. Because originally when I planned it, I planned to do a move, and then I didn't do a move. So actually I could have taken the puppet all along. So that is what I shall do for this next one. We'll just take that again, and I shall take, actually, Drew,
Yeah.
could you take an asteroid? But at least you've seen Elliot suffer now, which is the main reason we're here today.
Genuine experience.
Right, okay, so if you could bring... Let me see, I'm going to this time. So the thing about the Dolly, as I said before, is that we can... still can't see very bright. It's funny, once you sort of, it's like Stockholm Syndrome, really. Once you get used to making something in sort of particularly cramped, confined conditions, you get used to it. And then when you've got a bit of space, you don't really know what to do with it anymore. Why is that coming up so? That's a bit better. Okay, so this time I'm going to do a move, and Drew and Elliot are going to Puppeteer. But that's the sort of mistake you genuinely make at home. You get into the heat of the moment, and you just think, oh, we'll do that, and then you realise that you're just sitting around doing nothing. All right, we'll try that. Focus might be a bit loose, but hopefully you'll get the idea for... Okay.
Ready when you are.
And so one of the other things about these sort of Dolly bookcases is that you have to start the move before you start the scene, because it gives the moment for the wobble to come out of the books. I do apologise instantly if I expose myself accidentally from the backside to you. We have an absolutely magnificent collection of crew backsides, which are Nebula 75 branding, which you'll be able to purchase after the show. Okay.
We should make a calendar.
Okay. And action.
Now, don't get me wrong, Doc. It's not that I don't trust you. I mean, you've only gotten us into trouble one, maybe two, three. Well, occasionally. And it's deep space, unexplored territory. So these things happen, right? Anyway, what I mean is I trust you implicitly. Once I've looked over and double-checked all the facts myself. What I mean, Doc, this investigation does pose an element of risk, and to come straight to the point, that is not to go around the houses or, well, beat around the bush or obfuscate, is, well...
Sorry to interrupt, sir.
Oh, no, please, go ahead, Lieutenant.
I just wanted to let you know that the star will be going supernova.
Okay, then cut.
10 minutes.
Okay, so that would be our general start. Even if we decide that's not, which often we do, decide that the first go isn't necessarily usable, or even the first shot, it gives us a sort of idea of where everything is. And the thing is that individually, you tend to find that none of the shots work. There's always something odd. Puppet is boss-eyed. Something is, you know, there's a bit of something that's gone wrong with the head's leaning to one side or something
They'll
like
be
that.
casting a shadow over another character, or
Casting a shadow of another character.
My head's in the way.
And even if something's going wrong during the take, like asteroid dipping down a bit, if you keep rolling, you might find a moment later on where it's been corrected. So unless something goes catastrophically wrong, or your arms are very, very tight and you're trying to spare the puppeteer, keep rolling on it.
So if you see any shot of ours that lasts longer than 5 seconds, it's really just a boast, really, saying that we managed to make it work as long as that.
But something we did have on our episodes of Thunderbirds, which they used in the 60s, which we can't fit in our flat, is they would have a puppeteer bridge about 6 feet off the ground.
Which you can see behind you
yes.
there. So
Apologies.
Put these images together just to give you an idea of before COVID, what were we working with? And so this is actually a frame grab from the episode of Endeavour we did, where we provided the puppet sequence within the episode itself, but gives you an idea of the bridge that crosses the set and just the sort of the scale of it as well. Same here, we've got on the top of the bridge there is actually Mary Turner, one of the original Thunderbirds puppeteers, who's come back to work with us multiple times. She's in her 80s, but her arms are still incredibly strong. I've never seen anyone kind of be able to lock into place as well as she can. And there you can see the massive vintage dolly we've got, the film camera. And this one is from a Halifax advert that we did, so Parker on the beach set there. And again, just the sheer scale of the depth of the sets compared to the living room. So that's usually the space we're working with. So this is luxurious, even if we're trying to recreate what we were going through there. And just another angle on it there. You'll see as well, the bookcase is kind of shown off a bit more there. So all of the Nebula 75 sets pretty much are made up of these 3 bookcases. And our system is just that we've got set pieces mounted onto boards with Velcro on, they Velcro off, they Velcro back on. You can switch them around and use them in a kind of modular fashion. What are we coming in for now, Stephen?
So Asteroid can return to the bedroom.
Okay.
And we'll come in. So the very first shot that you saw there is an intense shot on Commander Neptune, who often has difficulty talking, being very honest with Dr. Asteroid, who often feels puts him into these terrible situations. So I wanted to do something so it's a very long, intense shot. Now you'd think that being, all he has to do is sit and look and talk down the camera. You'd think that would be terribly easy. You'll see in a moment. So one of the things is also to try and get a bit of separation. If you could bring Commander Neptune out so that you don't have too comfortable a time for it. Right, I think we need a bit more height. You just tend to look at anything around you just to sort of, apparently I'm now filming this on studying feminist film theory. But I mean, one of the things that I found is that when you're working in miniature, that the incremental height of the camera and the lens, it's in millimeters, probably even less than that. So we use stuff like pill packets to prop the lens up, so you can just push it down. You can just get that 0.5 millimeter you need just to get the. My lovely assistant has just bought me, in case you don't know what they look like. This is a packet of paracetamol, which you too can use in film production. But I think you can only buy 2 packets at a time. So, right, can you take Neptune just back a tiny? No, actually, yes, take it back a tiny bit. Okay, and then.
Keep going.
Actually, I think we want to be a bit more on his eye line.
All right.
What have we got? Hyenas in petticoats? Various authors. Let's try that. There we go. So hopefully we'll be a bit more on his eye line. The other great thing about books is that you can just sort of tilt them a bit. I fully advocate books actually becoming mainstream industry practice. I think we're onto something here. Right, so that's that. So then, and he's got a bit of light in his eyes, I think.
He does. He's a tad soft.
He's a yeah, I'm just trying to take in that shadow a bit from there. I mean, you get shadows all over the place. The shadows in these shows make absolutely no sense whatsoever. And if you look at an episode of Thunderbirds, not just the shadows, but also the way they move furniture around. I mean, you'd think that that's all they ever do in between rescues, is just move their sofa around the place. Even the one that's supposed to be rooted to the floor. Right, okay.
Yeah. Do we need a floor puppeteer for this, or do you think we'll be okay?
Yeah, I think you could.
Yeah, okay.
Well, actually, no, I can do that.
All right.
There's nothing to, so,
Yeah, the floor puppeteer is literally someone who lies on the floor during a shot holding a puppet still, basically. It might get a bit more complex than that. It might be the case that you need a puppet to perform a specific move that's very difficult to do with the strings, a certain kind of turn, or bending over at the waist, or things like that.
this one's the particularly complicated move of him standing still. So.
Yeah, but when you're in close, as Stephen was saying, any kind of sway does get magnified. So just a little bit of pressure on the legs can help Elliot out and get more control out of the head as well, because you've got the body being pulled down and the head just frees up a little bit more to get a bit more expression.
Stephen, it's easier for me to fall up to. Do you want me?
No, because you have to lip sync.
I can do it.
I've just realised that's the cheat that we accidentally used. We've got 4 people involved in the last shot, though. Unreasonable. Does it still look all right? I can't see it anymore. I mean, this is so often the thing. Like, you're trying to camera and you're trying to puppeteer as well. So you're looking around and going, oh, yes, I think that's the shot there. So the important thing is here, Elliot, is that Neptune's eyes don't move for this one. Yeah. We want to keep it right down the barrel of the camera. OK, now where's the recorder? There it is. OK, everyone ready?
Ready?
Right, running and action.
Now, don't get me wrong, Doc. It's not that I don't trust you. I mean, you've only gotten us into trouble one, maybe two, three. Well, occasionally. And it's deep space, unexplored territory. So these things happen, right? Anyway, what I mean is I trust you implicitly. Once I've looked over and double-checked all the facts myself. What I mean, Doc, this investigation does pose an element of risk, and to come straight to the point, that is not to go around the houses or, well, beat around the bush or obfuscate, is, well...
Sorry to interrupt, sir.
Oh, no, please, go ahead, Lieutenant.
I just wanted to let you know that the star will be going supernova in 3 hours, 10 minutes, before programming the final
Okay,
coordinates.
and cut.
I just wanted to...
It's absolutely marvellous app to work out. I really recommend it.
It looked pretty good from here.
Okay, well, pretty good what we aim for. So, I mean, normally we would always do, we won't today because time's against us, but we would look at that. Generally, you have a sense of whether it works or not when you're just sort of being on set with it. So we don't actually tend to review the rushes that often unless the shot's particularly critical. But we would shoot that at least twice. Just to make sure we got a safety take if we were really happy with it, and if we were unhappy with it, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 times. Depends on how important it is to the, and how much coordination there is going on.
It's probably a good time for Geraldine just to mention what it is she's actually doing here.
Just having a good time. No. So basically, I don't know if you guys can see, but these leads here, these wires, go into the puppet and magnetize their solenoid. So basically, their mouths are made in such a way that they can move ever so slightly with the magnet clacking every time I put an electrical impulse. So that's what I'm trying to match. I'm trying to match their lines to talking, because of course they're not real actors who can remember their lines. I have to do it for them. The difficulty, which I'm sure you've noticed me trying to voice along as I'm going with the puppet, is that my waveform here takes into account small things like breathing and clacking of teeth of the actual voice actor. So he ends up clacking more than he should or less than he should, depending on whether or not I think the waveform is actually a word, so that's why I'm trying to remember it by heart. And this is, apart from, of course, everything Stephen's mentioned before, I know we keep saying this is the most difficult bit, but one thing that breaks down, and is the most frustrating thing when it breaks down, is that, because you can get everything ready, the light, the floor puppeteer, the camera, lovely Elliot there, and then we'll go to do a take, and the solenoid will have just given up on life for unknown reasons. And as you can see, they're not big heads. So going into their heads and actually trying to fiddle around and understand why the magnets just, decided to quit on us is actually a difficult and time-consuming process and quite frustrating.
I mean, actually, on that basis, while he's on camera, if you'd like to turn Commander Neptune around,
yes.
we can show you with the magic of television. Maybe not too close near because he'll go out of focus. That is the interior.
You usually give a warning for the squeamish there, but we just went straight into it.
So here is the solenoid, and then the eyes are on a couple of rockers which are controlled from here, and then the power runs out underneath. In the 60s, originally they ran the power up to a trolley bus, and it would run out. We don't have a puppet bridge, so we can't do that. Many people ask us why we do it manually, because in the 60s they had a much touted system in which they could, the puppets would speak, the pulses would be converted into electrical impulses, which would drive the mouth. What the studio publicity rarely mentioned was that it almost never worked. And it is actually easier rather than add another an automated element into it, which is it can't often tell, it has difficulty with aspirates and stuff like that.
And it was still somebody's full-time job to sit there at the tape deck to compensate when it didn't work and to press play and rewind and stuff. So if you've got someone sat there anyway, why not, have them included in a more, I suppose, more performative way?
Because of course the length of the syllables, make it different. You want to, you can do things with the lip sync, to the way you hold open for long sounds, etc., or even do comedy things with them, and it just gives you slightly more direct control. Right. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do now is that Asteroid and Neptune have turned towards the screen. So the screen's bits we shoot separately. And normally, this bookcase here, doubling as space, would be the screen that they would look at, and we would just fill that in there. So we take the walls out according to as we need it. Now, a particular type of shot that looks good for the puppets is to put one in the foreground and one in the background, and that has two effects. First of all, it makes our bookcases look like it gives them slightly more depth than they've actually genuinely got. But the other, more important thing is that it means that as the camera operator, I can also hold a puppet in the foreground. So if I get Dr. Asteroid...
All these cables are just as one piece now, so you just need to pick them up from the bottom as well.
Do we need him lip synced? Or is he just...
Yes.
Cool.
Because he will turn round at some point. Or even he might start turned round.
No, I think we should do the turning.
Do the full thing.
We'll do the full thing.
Do you want me to hold it for a sec?
No, because I think we should demonstrate the true awfulness of...
While they're setting up, we've just got this quick time lapse here of the living room, and we're obviously faffing around a lot now, but this is basically... How long did you leave this running, Elliot?
This is at least an hour and a half, I think.
An hour and a half, and I think it's the exact same scene, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you see us sort of scrambling around to remove bookcases, put bookcases back in order. The puppets are constantly leaving set to get tended to, whether that's, to fix hair or fix lip sync, and hanging them up whenever we can just to spare someone's arms, particularly Dr. Asteroid, who has a fiberglass body like everyone else, but because it's such a larger fiberglass body, he does weigh an absolute ton.
We're almost there, so Geraldine's just set in for a moment while I try and get... So one of the other problems we've got, because it's such a small enclosed space, is trying to light them. Yeah. And then get the shot. So frequently, just kicking it around, just trying to find that you can find the actual shot. So I suppose if... So actually, I'm not quite... So if I come over there, and then come down the length of the... Now we're getting more like it. So, Elliot, if you move Neptune nearer to the line... Yeah, Geraldine, could you hold it for a moment? So one of the things is you can put the putt down, stand in the set, because you'll... So this is a problem. It's very easy to come into the set, and of course, you will occasionally see hands creeping. Not just in our stuff, in the 60s as well. It's almost impossible to avoid. So Asteroid has now moved, so you've got a monitor there. And you can hop him in further across, into the set.
Back a bit, Geraldine.
No, and then over to the right.
You're right.
Yes, sorry. Right, okay, so that's good. So then I just need to give Asteroid a bit of highlight, which is sort of about there.
This is also where a bridge comes in handy, because you can position the bridge or the set accordingly, so you're not having to lean right into the set like we have to in the flat.
And one thing worth bearing in mind as well is usually when we're shooting, we're thinking about shooting in 4:3. We're going for that classic 60s television aspect ratio. This episode happens to have been filmed in widescreen because we were going for a different feel. We were going, since it was about the production of a movie, we wanted to go for a sort of Techniscope kind of look, a more lavish kind of look. So it does change the kind of shots that really work for the puppets as well. But it looks pretty good from where I am now.
Yeah, not quite got enough light on the background, but as I'm sure hopefully our audience at home will understand that that'll do. So Neptune is a bit out of focus, so that gives a bit of depth to it, but Asteroid gives it a bit of power. Could you just move Asteroid slightly nearer to the lens, Geraldine? Yeah. Okay, stop. Of course, the other difficulty you have is that slightly nearer to the lens in human terms is about 48 miles in puppet terms. There we go, and if you just move him... There we go. Right, so now if I find... So now this is the sort of difficult thing, really, is that with three of us, it's crucial that the puppets are in some degree of focus. Now, I might sit there and the minimum focus is, is really, really narrow.
Sorry. he's moved a bit.
Yes, he has, but he hasn't moved near the lens. So if you come out... So the problem is that then once I take over, he inevitably is going to end up moving a bit.
Wait, let me just move the wires for you. There we go.
Well, actually, I'm standing. So actually, the easiest place for me would be to stand out of the lights. Ooh, kick the lens. Sorry, Boyd. So now I can't see if he's in focus again, so I'm going to have to look at it again. I mean, for this demonstration, we're going to say yes.
Yeah, he's ever so slightly soft. It would be sort of a centimetre forwards, I think, would bring him back
A centimetre
in,
forwards.
Right.
Yeah, that's better.
Yep. Okay. So now, this is a bit of set. It makes Asteroid look powerful, and it makes Neptune look a bit smaller. Drew?
Yep.
Do we have another of the small lights?
Small Aniwa, yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you. And there
There's
should
a
be a battery down by where you were, Geraldine.
There's indeed a battery down where I was.
So while Geraldine sorts that, could you carry on with the presentation?
Yeah, sure. So here we've got another set from The Incredible Voyage of Nebula 75, the most recent episode. And this is the Cockpit of the Comet, which is a brand new set specifically for that. We'd had the Comet before, but it was only in the sense of it being a model on screen. And what we were going for with this was a bit more of a sort of a Thunderbirds feel, a bit more of the technology. And one of the things that we didn't factor into it, but we found out very quickly on set, is the chairs slid around really nicely on the floor, which is obviously very low tech. But if your floor puppeteer is out of view and you add the right sound effect, suddenly you get that very mechanical Thunderbird 2 launch kind of feel. And just an example of a set out of absolutely nothing here. This is from our Halloween episode, in which Dr. Asteroid finds himself confronted by all of these different busts of himself. And most of the haunted spaceship in that episode is made up of 4 grey walls dressed differently. So the spooky nature of it allowed us to get away with quite a lot. So bits of netting, bits of cobwebs, and the dirt you see on the ground there is coffee bought from the corner shop just over the road in the 5 minutes before we went for the take, because we thought it just looked a bit too mechanical. It didn't have that correct kind of haunted house feel until we just shoved that in, basically.
And you can see, I mean, that largely gives you an idea. I mean, because that's on a wide-angle lens, it actually makes our living room look about twice the size it actually is. But you can see one of our problems is the bookcase is over to the right. So often restrictive. Okay, right, shall we do this? Okay, Geraldine, if you... can you find the relevant section on the lip sync, which is this is from when he turns around.
Yep.
So I shall do the turnaround. So there, and so that's another problem. It's like, so often if you want them to look down the barrel of the lens, and you say, oh, you just get them to turn around, that so often what you get is they do that. So a lot of the time you sort of know the shot is duff immediately, because you need to find, which is where a floor puppeteer would be generally very useful, because they will hold the puppet and turn them around.
So we've just taken it from the line before Mercury first appears.
Okay. All right.
Just checking lip sync. Okay, ready to go.
Neptune's eye line, asteroid there.
He's now looking, yeah, so it should be the Oh, the other thing is the eye lines, because the eyes move, and that's absolutely critical. They're sort of looking in the right direction. I mean, this is difficult normally, but I mean, it's 100 times more difficult like this. So, running.
Okay.
And action.
Beat around the bush or obfuscate is well.
Sorry to interrupt, sir.
Oh, no, please, go ahead, Lieutenant.
I just wanted to let you know that the star will be going supernova in 3 hours, 10 minutes. Before programming the final coordinates, I just wanted to check one thing with the doctor.
And what's that?
Is it really safe, Doc?
Safe? But of course. I have taken great care of the calculations, and Circuit has confirmed them. So long as everyone follows my instructions to the letter, well, we should be in for a spectacular, once-in-a-lifetime experience. Does that put your mind at rest, Lieutenant?
It certainly does, Doc. Sorry for asking.
Not at all. I'm glad you've been able to ask the important questions, no matter how awkward. Very important, right, Commander?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay, so we just cut that. No, that's fine. So we'll just cut that, and I'm just going to do just the turnaround first so that we've got that should we need. Again, I do want to stress we would do this several times, but you probably wouldn't want to watch that any more than we'd like to do it.
I'll just point out quickly, that's basically one of the mistakes that happen a lot. The waveform doesn't tell me what character it is, so I made Ray talk even though it was asteroid, so that doesn't work.
Again, a problem that turns up in the original series when they forgot to reroute the character. So I'm just going to run
Ready when you are.
and action.
Beat around the bush or obfuscate is well.
Sorry to interrupt, sir.
Oh, no, please, go ahead, Lieutenant.
I just wanted to let you know that the star will be going supernova in 3 hours, 10 minutes. Before programming the final coordinates, I just wanted to check one thing with the doctor.
And what's that?
Is it really safe, Doc?
Safe? But of course. I have taken great care of the calculations, and circuit has confirmed them. So long as everyone follows my instructions to the letter, well, we should be in for a spectacular, once-in-a-lifetime experience. Does that put your mind at rest, Lieutenant?
It certainly does, Doc. Sorry for asking.
Not at all. I'm glad to be able to ask the important questions, no matter how awkward. Very important, right, Commander?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
That was a nice
And
one.
cut that. So one of the things that you often find is, of course, you're looking at the monitor, and it's sort of right, but the minute you move away to check something else, like it's still recording to the camera, the puppet tends to move in the direction that you're looking. So you'll often find bits. Again, if we had someone dedicated, well, even when we had someone dedicated, a dedicated puppeteer to look at it, they do have this way of, they'd have to move much before they start to drift. But in this form of, making stuff in a flat, you're often taking stuff so you can get the best bits out of, various sections. So you can spend hours and hours on it. That shot to me looked like it was a bit out of focus, but please forgive us if we roll on that, so we can get some sort of scene. Our intention is to try and cut it all together and give you a demonstration.
It's also easy to forget that this isn't a mirrored image. It's very easy when you're on the bridge or here. If you want to turn the puppet to the right on the TV, it will be on the left. So when you find yourself sort of straying off like this, if you suddenly want to correct, you'll find you go off more that way, and that then requires another take.
Right, so now we'll just quickly do, because I'm aware that time is ticking on. So if we take, no, actually, could you take both of these?
Yeah.
So again, one of the luxuries of this sort of filming, I use luxury in inverted commas, is that you can just move in. So when we've got asteroids turn around and he's talking to Neptune, we don't actually, we can just, you move Neptune out and put him there. Sorry, put asteroid. Actually,
So
Neptune,
they need to swap.
Neptune can leave because they're close up on asteroid.
Wait, let me
Watch that crossover there.
crossing wires, guys. Give me a sec.
We often get tangled up. Is there a next part to the?
Let me just click through.
Okay, you need give me a
So
sec.
the Nebula 75 cast there, the main cast, we've got obviously Dr. Asteroid and Commander Neptune in the middle circuit, followed by Lieutenant Solstice, Athena, and Lieutenant Mercury as well. And all of our puppets are a mixture of characters that existed for other productions previously and ones that have been specifically created for these episodes. The main cast, for one reason or another, have all existed prior to Nebula 75 existing. And I can just show you here a bit of the puppet workshop here when Dr. Asteroid was having a bit of a service, because basically after there was Dr. Asteroid first painted up 5 years ago.
This absolutely sounds filthy. Yes, so the puppet dates from 2015, and they wear out. You're always handling them and picking them up, and they get slammed around, etc.
So it gets, they get lots of little paint chips, scuff marks, hair comes out where it shouldn't come out. So at a suitable juncture, we send them back to get replenished, I suppose.
Oh, we need us.
You can see you might not be able to see if Geraldine and Elliot are in the way, but puppet eyes down on the bottom there of the bench. Different tests of the trimite paint on a piece of paper there, just so they could Stephen Mansfield in this case, making sure you can get the right skin tone. Even though it's not hugely obvious immediately, the characters do have subtle shading to their faces. So Asteroid has these blush cheeks, he's got a little bit of 5 o'clock shadow, and all of that has to be just very, very gently and carefully, bit by bit, applied. And there we've got Neptune undergoing a similar treatment, and 2 Lieutenant Solstice heads there on the bottom as well. For certain puppets, duplicates do exist. In the 60s, they'd usually have those duplicates, so they could show different expressions. Obviously, the face is absolutely fixed. So if a character needs to smile or frown, there would be a different head there. They'd also have 2 neutral puppets, so that 2 film units could be working at the same time and just speed up production as well. And there you can see our 2 Neptunes hanging around there. And on this screen, this is just a shot from Elliot's laptop, I believe, while he was editing. You can see Dave the director from our most recent episode. He was a character specifically created for that story, and he's actually modelled on a real person. He's modelled on David Elliot, actual director for the Andersons throughout the 60s. And it was David's 90th birthday recently, and this was kind of our tribute to him. We've worked with him a lot over the years. He's been incredibly gracious, you know, passing on what he knows. And he's just a great guy to be around, to be honest. So it was nice to be able to immortalize him in some way. And here we have the different stages of Dave the director that Stephen Mansfield's put together for us. In the top right, you'll see where all those different faces are on that one white sheet is the original plasticine sculpt or plastiline sculpt. And these are the first pictures that we get to see of that character, just to give us a sense of what direction he's heading in. Were you going to say something there, Steve?
No, that's Neptune, but I'm very glad that you think I sound as...
All right. And on the bottom of that sheet there as well, you can see a version that's digitally coloured, just so before the process goes any further, one of the luxuries we have now is to apply digital colour and just have an approximation of what that final puppet is going to look like. In the middle, you've got the fiberglass cast before any work is done to it. So completely hollow. There's no cutting done around the lips, so the lips are fixed at that point, and obviously no paint. In the top right-hand corner, you can see what it looks like when that lip is cut out. So just to the right of that head, where you can see the lip cut out, you'll see a little bar, and attached to that is the lip independently, and that has to be fixed back in. And to hide the gap where the movement occurs, a tiny little strip of leather has to be laid in there by hand. And often that's been described as the most difficult part of the process by people who've done this, just because it is such a fiddly job. And you've also got to make sure that the leather's got the right amount of give, you're not putting too much in, you're not putting too little in. And when that's painted up, the idea is that you then can't tell that it's there. And going through different stages of painting there on the bottom, and on the bottom right-hand side, you can see the end on-screen result as well, after he's had paint and mohair applied as well. Again, mohair applied piece by hand, just with glue, and styled at the time of creation, and then styled on set as well by whoever's dressing the puppets.
And I'm just going to wrap that up there because we are ready to do the next shot, and poor Elliot's arms will be going.
So which line are we taking?
So this is him going to be turning it around. But I will, for the moment, yeah, okay, we'll do the turnaround, but then we might do it separately and just do a straight one.
Is he turning from the screen?
Yes, he is.
So he's turning from right to left from your point of view, Elliot?
Yes, sorry.
Sometimes we get so lost in the confusion of what we're doing, we do shoot it both ways just to make sure that we've got it. Just the thing, we're not having anyone for continuity to remind you what you did an hour before when you were saying you'd never talk to each other again. Could you move him just slightly so he's covering that gap in the... So now he's turning from the screen. I mean, geographically, this isn't strictly correct, but for the time limitations, we'll just give this a go. Okay. Are you ready?
Ready when you are.
Drew, could you just run over and tell me if we're anywhere approaching focus?
Yeah. His hairline at the back looks pretty sharp.
Yeah,
there.
I think
it's hard
so.
to tell without the eyes, but...
It says so here. All right, well, we'll give it a go. Okay. Ready?
Yep.
Running. Action.
Beat around the bush or obfuscate is, well...
Sorry to interrupt, sir.
Oh no, this is the wrong
please,
part.
go ahead, Lieutenant.
I just wanted
That's when they
to
turn
let you-
back.
Oh, it's between him and...
Yeah. I'm so sorry, this is sometimes the confusion we get into. Drew will resume the... one thing I wanted to say about the puppets is that these puppets are obviously they're expensive and you know, they are professional standard puppets. But what I really want to bring across from this is that a lot of this stuff is so homemade. You can do this with papier-mâché puppets. The same sort of photographic techniques apply. If you're working in miniature, the general rule of thumb is that you want everything to be in focus to give the character some scale. So illuminate bright and stop down.
Sorry for asking.
Not at
Okay, I think we're ready to go.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that you too, if you're mad, can do this at home, but maybe with other puppets. Okay.
Glove puppets.
I bet glove puppets come with their own problems. Okay, are we ready? Yep. Running. Action.
Sorry for asking.
Not at all. I'm glad to feel able to ask the important questions, no matter how awkward. Very important, right, Commander?
Yes. Absolutely.
Oh, by the way, what do you...
Asteroids lent out so I can bring them back into
Nothing
set.
really. I have complete confidence in you, Doc. As you know already. Right. Anyway, I better get to work.
Okay, and cut. And we'll just do that again because Asteroid fell off his. So poor Elliot here, but this is sort of authentic to the experience, is having to look around to a monitor that's not quite in the right place. Because generally you work off our television and that means the puppet drifts. So if you can find him so he's down the middle line. Yep. And I'll stop recording.
I feel quite lazy here, but as best as I can, I'm trying to pretend I'm in Gateshead like I was during most of the production and not in London. So unless they're asking, I'm not going to approach the set.
Okay, running and action.
Sorry for asking.
Not at all. I'm glad to feel able to ask the important questions, no matter how awkward. Very important, right, Commander?
Yes. Absolutely.
Oh, by the way, what do you want to ask me, Commander?
Oh, well, nothing really. I have complete confidence in you, Doc. As you know already.
Okay, we'll just do that one more time, and I will assist the puppet to turn around so it doesn't overshoot its mark. So, what's the best way of doing this? Drew will give you some other fascinating tidbit while I...
Well, here we can see Geraldine dressing Commander Neptune there. If you need the characters to sit down or pose in any way other than standing bolt upright, really, you'll often find that the costume does things that you don't want to do, or the legs do things that you don't want them to do. So someone has to go in there and manually sort of tug them down, sort of screw a leg around, and just make sure they're exactly where they need to be, because there's only so much that the puppeteer overhead can actually achieve from those strings.
And they've also got a rather, which you never hear mentioned from them, probably because it's embarrassing, but they have this rather unfortunate habit of the arm locking out, and when you go to lift it, they very easily form a Nazi salute.
Yes.
When I say that's the main problem we have to go in and fix, is that suddenly they're doing a gesture we'd rather they didn't. Right, Geraldine, can you see the monitor from there?
No, I can only see the bitty one.
Well, that's fine.
Okay, yeah.
That's the monitor. There. I just want to see that he's actually turning around.
Yeah. He's turning well.
Okay.
He's still between the two lines.
Well, just tell me if we don't get the turn. Okay.
Okay.
Looks good to me.
Okay, running
Ready when you are, look at the monitor.
and action.
Sorry for asking.
Not at all. I'm glad to feel able to ask the important questions, no matter how awkward. Very important, right, Commander?
No.
Move on.
I think you were a little bit off there.
Okay.
And he's
Hang on.
over the line there.
So there.
Promise you pushed.
Yes. All right.
Okay, he's
hang
moved
on.
now.
No, he's moved.
So it's more that he needs to be facing Yeah, once he's turned, it's almost a full 180.
Oh,
Yeah.
unfortunately, my arm doesn't do it.
Yeah.
Well, I can probably lip sync and turn him.
No,
at
no,
the
no,
same
no,
time.
no, no, that's
No?
fine.
Okay.
No, it's still the same problem.
It is indeed.
Okay. Well, we'll do it and we'll get what we get.
He's drifted again. There we go. Good.
Running, I think. Action.
Oh, no, we're not.
Oh, we're not running. Thank you very much for that information. Are we
There we
running,
go.
Elliot?
Yeah.
Excellent. And action.
Sorry for asking. Not at all. I'm glad to be able to ask the important questions, no matter how awkward. Very important, right, Commander?
You've drifted.
Yes,
Drifted, sorry.
absolutely.
Oh,
I mean, it's a mark of my directorial style in general that it never looks like I've actually looked at the monitor for the shot.
I think he needs to go around a little.
Yeah, he was looking at me
Further.
basically.
Okay.
Ready when you are.
Are we running, Elliot?
Yes.
If you could do my job as well. Okay, and action.
Going.
sorry for asking. Not at all. I'm glad to be able to ask the important questions, no matter how awkward. Very important, right, Commander?
Oh, bugger.
Yes.
All right, well, I'm going to step it. Normally I'd be able to see the television, but this monitor is tiny and I'm just making excuses, really. But I can't actually see what's going on. I'm going to try this way, actually. I'll try with two hands.
Okay.
That's better. I've no idea if we focus, but who cares about such things at this point? All right, are you ready?
Yes.
Running.
Yep.
Are we running?
We are indeed.
Yes.
Oh, we are running. Okay, and action.
Sorry for asking. Not at all. I'm glad to be able to ask the important questions, no matter how awkward. Very important, right, Commander?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, by the way, what did you want to ask me, Commander?
Oh, well, nothing really. I have complete confidence in you, Doc. As you know already.
That's it for his lines.
So we got a smooth turn. We lost focus a bit, but
So are you saying it's a usable or a completely unusable shot?
if we were shooting this for real,
Yeah.
I would say go again. We need that focus.
Okay. Well, we'll just give it a quick go. I'll leave it to Elliot this time. So that way we've definitely got something we can cut together with.
Yeah, that's good.
And whenever you're not rolling, you sort of get it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the rehearsals are always the ones you should be recording, but you never are. Okay, ready? Turn around. Everyone's going to think I just made it much more difficult now. And action.
Sorry for asking. Not at all. I'm glad to be able to ask the important questions, no matter how awkward. Very important, right, Commander?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
No, that's right. That was rubbish too. My reputation remains intact. Right. Okay. Running.
Okay, ready when you are.
And I'll let you turn, Elliot, and I'll just sort of catch him.
Okay.
Okay. And action.
sorry for asking. Not at all. I'm glad to be able to ask the important questions, no matter how awkward. Very important, right, Commander?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, by the way, what did you want to ask me, Commander?
Oh, well, nothing really.
That's it.
I have complete
Okay.
confidence
Okay.
in you, Doc.
So I would say, got the turn there. He was ever so slightly soft, and then I'd use an earlier take for his actual line following Neptune.
Right. Okay. So that's the sort of mix and match approach that that we would take. Basically, you find whatever's usable. Get the feeling we're broadcasting live to the world. That we're not quite as confident as we should be. But it's all in there somewhere. I mean, a lot of the time, you're actually it becomes more and more uncomfortable as the days go on, stuck at home. So you just try and move it on. Just one last thing to wrap this up, this bit here, is that at the end of that scene, Commander Neptune leaves through a door.
Do we need the door?
Well, I'm just going to demonstrate that one of the things that we're always looking to do is to create an element. I'm looking for my laptop.
Yeah, wait, yeah.
Oh. Is to give a sense that there's a world beyond, and there isn't a world beyond. There's a kitchen beyond the world that we have. Every time they leave any room whatsoever, they step into the kitchen or flat into a bookcase. And you often want things that while you're sitting there uncomfortably, holding a puppet like this, so I might be if you get another, if you actually, yeah, just, can someone get Neptune?
Yeah.
This way.
Yep. I hand you that.
So we'll just cheat this for a second. Now, if you give me Neptune and Elliot, if you could just hold that for a second. So, and then we'll. So, I mean, there's loads of this with one person doing one job. But one of the things that we found is that putting doors in, you don't necessarily have to have the set behind, but it just gives a sort of sense of the, and often you want something, so for many of our effort, the door is just the back of my laptop covered in vinyl. And then when you want them to leave, could you hold it while I press record? Yeah. Thank you very much. There we go. So you have a door like that, and then the door opens, and he walks out. We might do that 1 or 1,000 times.
I've even got the sound for you.
Oh, excellent. You can play the sound. There we go. We can lip sync the door. And action. Oh, I nearly dropped it. Could you take the laptop? Thank you very much.
Dropping the laptop.
The laptop is what we used for the first handful of episodes, which is obviously very low tech, but then we upgraded to a piece of wood. That's how fancy it's gotten.
So with the originally, you know, we were stuck with largely what we had, so it was just dressed onto the back of bookcases. But for the second lockdown, we've managed to get some bits of MDF, all terribly high-tech. Right, Elliot's going to go away and see if he can put what we shot into some sort of semblance of order, maybe mixed up with. And I'm just going to give you a quick demo of the special effects. How are we doing for time? 5. Okay, oh no, Elliot can't go anywhere because he's got 2 puppets.
Give me a second.
And just to tie into what Stephen was saying there about expanding the world, here we've got in progress a group shot of the puppets, and obviously we've limited number of arms and hands, so if there are a large number of the puppets together, they have to be hung on a rail just like this, and it's about getting as much motion into them as possible without actually operating them. So even just a little jiggle of the rail can give them that little bit of life to them. But if you watch the episode earlier, again, The Incredible Voyage, there's a shot where the camera pans up the outside of the Nebula 75 and comes to rest at the observation window looking at the sun. And that was achieved by balancing this very precariously on top of Stephen's sofa and popping the window in front. So the window just gives you a hint of the outside of the ship. Again, it's just bits of plywood. It's nothing too complex there. But by having multiple characters there and the window and a bit of a camera move panning up, or tilting up rather, you can get an impression of a lot more scale than we actually have access to, really.
You're always doing something to suggest that there's a world beyond, or at least that's what we did to try and keep saying that one day we might escape it.
Yeah. There is a window to Commander Neptune's control room as well. Obviously, we need something outside of that window, so most recently we've had a big canvas patch of space printed out. And what we do with that is we position it. As soon as the take starts going, somebody drags that across the floor just to give the impression of stars drifting by. It also means, because the canvas isn't that big, pardon me, because the canvas isn't that big, every time we reach the end of it, that person then has to rush it back, hopefully when the character isn't speaking, and we can cut to something else, and then drag it through again. So we've got Nebula 75 down here, and that's the canvas, by the way, in the background there. And what we're kind of replicating here is the shot that you see in progress on the screen there. Just a close-up shot of the ship in motion in space. How are you doing, Stephen?
Almost there, which means it will take an hour.
It'll go wrong any moment now. Yeah.
So, if I now go back to the...
So one of the things about the special effects, and I use the word special very loosely for today, is that with these miniatures... Here we go. So Elliot, if you bring it a bit nearer, which you can, depending... Actually, do that. So we get the sort of length and height. So you often use, the thing with these miniatures, and in the 60s they had exactly the same thing, that the models are quite small, that you want to try and make them look as big as possible and to give them a bit of weight and grace. And there's two principles, I would say, in the limited time we've got available. One is a wide-angle lens helps distort the model and it helps stretch it out so that you've got, it helps make the model, the miniature, look a bit bigger than it is. Let me see if I can get... Again, I do want to emphasize that for today, this is all a bit rough and ready, and these are the sorts of things that we would spend a lot of time on. And also because of the limitations of our, you know, in a studio, you have the ability to get it all right, and you have the time. Well, you never have the time on the film set, but occasionally, because we don't have the distance, you know, to get the correct. We do little bits of extra digital work sometimes. As long as it looks like it feasibly could have been done in the 60s, we're happy to use a bit of technology. Right? Can you stop it? Yeah, it's flaring. So we'll do this sort of thin pass here. Normally we'd use our little canvas or canvas backing. We might push it back and forth. But this gives you an example. So the other thing is not it's just a wide-angle lens, but it's to shoot it at a faster frame rate. Normal film is 25 frames a second. We shoot the puppets at 24 frames a second, but the special effects at 120, so it's 5 times faster through the camera, which means that when you're playing back 120 frames at 24 frames a second, you've got more information within that 24 frames, so it makes everything seem to move slower, and it takes a lot of the bumps out of it. So we'll do
those wobbles become graceful suddenly.
Yes, well, that's the idea. Well, we'll give it a go now. So, if I hit record, and Elliot, if you take the Nebula 75 whooshing past through space. That's the wrong direction.
Just getting a run up here.
Oh, okay. That might be a bit too fast. No, just start with the fin there, and then just sort of just gracefully
pulling away.
Bring it out, just pulling away. I wasn't recording that, so I have absolutely no idea what's going on there. All right, let's try that again. Now I'm recording. Okay, and out. And again. And out. And again, but a bit slower. All right, then I should be able to, theoretically, the feed might go blank for a moment. I should be able to play that back for you so you get an idea.
Sound is also a big part of this as well. So obviously we've got the extended motion and the smoothness here, but imagine those rocket sound effects on top. If something happens that you weren't expecting, like say a spark or a piece of dust or something, an added sound effect can also cover those up in a way. It's not a model shot, but for example, in Short Circuit, a piece of the set fell down in front of Rusty that wasn't planned for. Add a sound effect in there and it becomes this comedy moment.
I would like to say that moment was entirely planned. No, genuinely it was.
Was it? All right. Yes. I prefer my version.
Never let the truth get in the way of a good story. But as you can see here, this gives you the sort of idea. It's just slower. It gives it a bit of motion. If you could go and get the Dave Mobile.
And I should say as well, the Nebula 75 was built for us by Hilton Fitzsimmons. And one of the things to notice in his models is he follows, again, what they were doing in the 60s, really overly detail as much as possible. So you've got those panel lines, you've got bits of grease, lots of detail, because once you've lit them brightly and then stopped down, a lot of that detail tends to get washed away, but to look good on camera. So the more overly detailed, the better.
Yeah, so the sort of, well, not overly detailed, it should be sort of just enough to give the sort of hint that, you know, that there might be like real aircraft have panel lines, etc. You're trying to get as much realism into it as possible. I mean, I think there's a difference between what they were trying to do in the 60s, which is trying to get to genuine real life, and what we're trying to do, which is to recreate what they were trying to get to, if that makes sense. They're slightly different. They wanted realism, we want it to look like what they actually got. So, I can see... can you bring...
You've seen the crease.
Yeah, if you could. I mean, this is just, again, just to sort of demonstrate really high speed. Elliot will fly through. Also, these spaceships are made of, they're made by Hilton, but again, with things you happen to have to hand. We discovered something in the course of this. Apparently, the Nebula 75 is made from a coffee grinder, or a tea dispenser, I think it was.
Yes, it is, yeah.
So, Elliot.
Yes.
Would you like to put the lethal wheels on? And running and then flying through shot. So lots of this is sort of swinging it through. Do it a bit slower. And then across. So often, you can turn him off now. You can turn him off. So often we're just swinging these things across the flat, hoping that we won't take the windows out. Probably shouldn't say that on camera. We're very careful with the flat. It's not our flat. So as you can see, the high speed has slowed the motion of the film cans. The conceit here is it's supposed to be like a paddle steamer. I've just realised he's strung upside down, so the wheels are going in the wrong direction. He should actually be going backwards, so that does rather upset the effect a bit. But
we can probably flip him.
No, it's all right. It gives the idea.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of these shots, when they come out of the camera, you're looking for the moment where it really works, principally that the wheels are going in the right direction. But hopefully that gives an idea. So, I'll switch that off. So that's the end of that part of the demonstration. How much more time have we got? 15 minutes. So Drew will continue with the presentation.
Right.
And Elliot is going to go off. You can just lay him down.
All right, so one other effect we've got in that last episode is the sun itself. It's meant to be a dying star and seeing various stages of that. And that was achieved for us with some assistance, some outside assistance, by one of our frequent cameramen, Boyd. And we can see here how Boyd actually filmed that. In this round container here, we had wire wool. It's this wire wool laid out into a circle, and when that is ignited, it has this lovely sort of burning, spreading kind of pattern. And again, shot at high speed, played back, and then composited into a space scene. Like Stephen was saying, we will use digital compositing if it means we can get a 60s look. You do get that kind of lovely crackling, burning. You can just about see in this shot kind of where the individual strands of wire wool are actually burning really bright there, just so you can believe me when I say it's wire wool, really. Do you want to add to that, Stephen?
No.
Oh, fine. And there's Nebula, Neptune with his feet up while Elliot does all the work once we finished filming, basically. Once we do finish filming, it's only really a stage of the production. There's a lot that goes on afterwards. Obviously the edit, all of the dialogue needs to be synced up once again because our on-set recordings are useless to us. They've got puppet clacking, they've got puppeteers swearing as they're dropping the puppets, everything. So we go back to those dialogue tracks, make sure they're all sunk up, and then the edit can really be refined from there. There's also a lot of grading involved. We have shot on 35mm film in the past, but for the sake of a lockdown production, that wasn't going to be practical. So it's been done entirely digitally and then graded to approximate that 60s film stock look. It's not just film, it's a very particular time in film as well. The colors, the texture of the grain, things like that.
No, I don't have anything to add to that, other than to say things like this is genuinely the way that we work with things like clock. Once you're on the set, you're constantly just rotating it, turning it around, putting new backings on and things like that, and just finding anything to hand to make it work, which is the bit that I really do want to emphasise. This sort of filmmaking isn't, or maybe not Supermarionation, but just simply because of the puppets. But you know, you can take away these techniques and use them for for your own films. There's you know, and experimentation is how you get to it. The truth is, when we did the first episode, I didn't, because of the way it was made, limitations, it didn't feel quite what I was originally, aiming for. But we did find an audience, and and that audience has enabled the series to improve and to expand. And so I really encourage anybody that wants to, you know, that wants to have a go at this thing, just to give it a go. A few years ago when we were doing the Thunderbirds episodes, we were besieged with comments from a professional writer just endlessly telling us why we shouldn't, because he didn't feel that we had enough resources. And I think that's, you know, it's if you want, I think there are, you know, there should be professional standards to reach for a television production and things like that. But how you get there, or even if you just want to make films for your own, you know, purposes, there's a lot to learn through experimentation. And you know, I ended up shooting Nebula 75 because obviously the cameraman couldn't come to our flat. So, you know, we've all ended up taking on different jobs that beyond the ones that we would normally do. We learnt a lot through that. So.
This is not the series we would have chosen to make before lockdown. We had other things in the pipeline. We had other scripts ready to go, and Nebula 75 was forged by the circumstances. But as Stephen is saying, we've learned an incredible amount just through the doing of it. Even though we've worked on this kind of stuff before, just the intensity of it has changed the way we approach things.
Yes, mainly I can employ fewer people next time, which is to a producer is just magic. I'm just trying to think, do you want to talk a bit about the costumes just for a moment?
Yeah. So basically, whilst Stephen didn't make a good point, being forced to learn things that we didn't previously, that, you know, we had no idea how to do. I have never made costumes in my life. I've never also really done anything with hair, wigs, makeup, so on and so forth. This is as much as I'll ever do with my own hair, so I'll just let it do its thing. But with the puppets, I had to learn how to style their hair, which is done with basically what you would use to, you know, style your own hair, which is, you know, gel and water, for example, sometimes, and rollers that I would cut and roll really, really tight so they'd be small rollers, and I could then put them in the wigs, because they're real human hair for the ladies. For the men, it really is just about, you know, putting it down, because you might have noticed Elliot occasionally touching the puppet hairs, because they keep a lot of flyaways. We pop the hatch off, and then Neptune looks mad, which is not really the style we want for our hero puppet. So there was a lot of learning how to do that, because I have never really taken care of hair before. But the main thing really that I learned over the course of all of this is fabric and clothes. So as I was saying before, I had a pair of scissors and I had a lot of spare time. So this is the throw I was telling you guys about. As you can see, it's now a lot smaller than it used to be. It is literally just, you know, your regular cheap sort of, well, it was, I don't actually remember, but it was just a throw. It has been snow. It has been, I think, a fake bear on the wall. It was hanging in one of the mansions. It has also been a rug, and more importantly, it was the trimming on the Santa Claus outfit. Hello there. This used to be a towel, but it's got the waffle sort of fabric effect that's quite popular nowadays. Uniqlo does a lot of those, but we didn't want to kill Stephen's jumpers, so we just took an old towel, and this is what it became. But more importantly, basically, as I was telling earlier during the Q&A, I had a lot of time, so I went through my own wardrobe, and I started slashing my own things. This used to be a pair of jeans. As you can see, they're now shorts. They became the pair of jeans on Dave, which you guys saw on the second episode. And it became a little hat. I don't know if we have a hat.
Should be in there.
Yes, it is. I can try and show you guys, but it's biddy. It became a little hat for the robot Circuit when he's dressed as a French painter. So it's a little beret, because why not? In terms of other things that we used as well, I have one of the socks here. This one became a vest, as you can see. I'm going to put my hand in it. There you go. So this is as good as it gets, really. It's got this in the middle, so it's got this perfect little pattern already in the socks. I don't need to do any more work. And you can, well, I do need to stitch everything onto the puppet, but you know what I mean. And you've got the collar here also that's part of the top of the sock. And that really goes around the puppet quite nicely. And because it's stretched, it also lets the puppet move quite nicely, because you don't want anything too tight around the neck, because it will just lock in place. I also killed a few canvas bags, because why not? This is a painter's apron. I literally just dabbed my hands into, we had some acrylics hanging around, and I just slapped my hands onto it because, again, it works. And it went on to circuit, same scene with the beret. And then this, literally just cardboard that I put a little bit of paint on. But it works, it comes together. You look at them now and you're like, what? But when you put them on the puppet, you put them on screen, they genuinely look good. So that's the thing, make the thing, put it on screen, wobble it around on screen so that it looks good.
It's one of the things we always say is important. It doesn't matter what goes on outside the screen. It's only once it's on screen and it's on camera. We did an advert a few years ago, which was quite difficult because we were working with a crew who weren't used to this sort of, and they were constantly obsessing with the stuff that was sort of outside of the range. They didn't understand. All that matters in the end is, does it look good on screen? It's made from anything. Once you try, if it doesn't look good on screen, then you try something else.
Well, one thing that because their idea at one point, Parker is sitting in his chair and he's got a margarita, which is great, it's very cute. But the problem is, they decided it would be a nice little touch, a nice little factoid for afterwards to put real margarita mix and real alcohol in a teeny tiny little glass, but it meant that every time someone tried to puppeteer the puppet, he would spill booze all over his, his legs, which is great if you're at the pub and you've had a few drinks, but not great if you're trying to make him look relaxed and, very fancy and chill. So really what would have been easier is just a little bit of glue, because you don't want it slopping all over the place. In the end, we didn't use, we did it very well and it looked beautiful. But the first few shots, it was slopping over.
But I think more importantly, you didn't need to make it real alcohol. You just need to look like alcohol.
No, that's why I'm saying glue would have been easier.
Well, they pour drinks very effectively in the original series. But I'm conscious we need to wrap up. So the only last thing that I'll sort of add is that the voices, these are all done to pre-recorded tracks. We used all sorts of, everyone who recorded for us used what was available to them. We use studio standard microphones. We even used iPhones occasionally to patch in for various bits, and then the soundtrack's all treated afterwards. And, really our sort of motto with Nebula 75 is just, I think the main thing is you've just got to get a show out. If you've said you're going to do it and you started, then that has to be done. I don't think Elliot's going to return in time with that clip. So,
no, I don't think so.
I think we're at the end of our time now, are we, Laura? Yeah. And I'd just like to say thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for being here in person, and if you're watching out there, hello.
Thank you.
And apologies that it seems so thrown together. It's the genuine experience.
But it is, yes.
Yes, it is.
It really is.
Did you want to? We were going to have just a brief wrapping up and chat. And I know at the front of the stage, I don't know if it's possible to see, we have some celebrities. We have Parker, and we have Brains, and we have Thunderbird 1 right here. I just wanted to kind of draw attention to these guys, showcase them. And also just to, we are getting to the end of time, but just to say thank you so much for doing this, for coming along, for talking to us, for demonstrating all of this. The amount of incredible kind of skill and, the balancing act that you have to do, coupled with kind of all the amazing stuff you've made use of, it's just fantastic. Thanks to everyone for watching and joining us online as well. We had a lot of really kind of lively chat, which was great. Some questions which we might not get time for, but there was a couple of comments about how Elliot must have muscles like Popeye, and discussion about how much time he spends in the gym. But maybe that's...
This is his gym.
This is generally the gym, yes.
That is his gym. But thank you so much. Thanks to our students who are filming this, and thanks very much to our Lewis Chadwick, our intern, who's been running the Arts in Isolation feed, and also Gary Mitchell, who's been vision mixing this live as it goes out in the back. Thank you so much, everyone. I think that's all for now.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Now's the awkward moment. Thank you.
Right, running and action.
Now, don't get me wrong, Doc. It's not that I don't trust you. I mean, you've only gotten us into trouble one, maybe two, three? Well, occasionally. And it's deep space, unexplored territory. So these things happen, right? Anyway, what I mean is I trust you implicitly. Once I've looked over and double-checked all the facts myself. What I mean, Doc, this investigation does pose an element of risk, and to come straight to the point, that is not to go around the houses or, well, beat around the bush or obfuscate, is, well...
Sorry to interrupt, sir.
Oh, no, please, go ahead, Lieutenant.
I just wanted to let you know that the star will be going supernova in 3 hours, 10 minutes. Before programming the final coordinates, I just wanted to check one thing with the doctor.
And what's that?
Is it really safe, Doc?
Safe? But of course. I have taken great care of the calculations, and Circuit has confirmed them. So long as everyone follows my instructions to the letter, well, we should be in for a spectacular, once-in-a-lifetime experience. Does that put your mind at rest, Lieutenant?
It certainly does, Doc. Sorry for asking.
Not at all. I'm glad you feel able to ask the important questions, no matter how awkward. Very important, right, Commander?
Yes. Absolutely.
Oh, by the way, what did you want to ask me, Commander?
Oh, well, nothing really. I have complete confidence in you, Doc. As you know already. Right, anyway, I'd better get to work.